Audio, I think a little video requires audio.
In the
It worked back at your house, but now it's not working for some reason. The bigger concern is the video. Okay. Okay, let's wind it down. We'll have one more of these. So, here's a little definition with some fancy slide changing. An acharya is one who teaches by example. So we know that principle. Achar. Achar is behavior. Acharya is one who teaches by behavior, by example. How does a teacher exemplify spiritual life? Now it's not like a multiple choice question, it's just these are some characteristics of one who teaches by example. And that first is connected to the whole theme of the Gita values, but they see pandita samadarshana. They see with equal vision. They see the spirit soul or the animating force within the body, and therefore they treat others according to their bodies, yes, but they treat with respect and dignity because their spirit souls parts of Krishna. You know the verse, Pandita Samadarshana, Vidya Vanaya Sampane. So, seeing spirit souls in all living entities, their personal life is a life of simplicity, simple living, high thinking, Prabhupada's phrase, simple living, high thinking. The example that's given here is Narada Muni and the hunter. What was the hunter's name? Magari. You know the story? You don't know. Once upon a time, Narada Muni was passing through a forest, and he saw one animal, another animal with arrows stuck in their body, flapping in pain, half dead. He was moved. What's this? And he saw the hunter who was half killing animals, and he approached the hunter, and the hunter said, "Well, you're chasing the animals away. What are you doing?" Narada said, "I just have to ask you make one request. Please don't half kill the animals. Kill them completely." And he said, "Why?" He said, "Because they're experiencing pain." And he said, "Well, I learned how to do this from my father because he taught me how to half kill animals, and he derived pleasure, and I was deriving pleasure by seeing them flap in pain." And he said, "Well, yeah, but it's pain, and if you do that to them, it's going to come to you. So, please kill them completely." Really had no idea that they experienced so much pain. and back and forth. And so there's some detail. I do this for my family. Anyway, so ask your family if they'll share the karma of your half-killing animals. No way. They said, no way. What should I do now? Break your bow. How am I going to maintain my family? I'll maintain your family. Break your bow. Faith. Broke his bow. Went back, built a little cottage, and because it was like a miracle thing that this forest-dwelling fellow had become a sadhu, the people from the village came out of the village and brought something for him to eat. He had so much, he had to distribute it. So one day, Narada came to visit him, and he came with his friend. What was his friend's name? Angira Muni, right? Angira Muni? Parvat Muni? Parvat Muni? He has a number of friends. Parvat Muni. That's right, Parvat Muni. So as they started approaching that cottage you see in the background, and the fellow came running, here comes Narada Muni, my guru, and he got down on his knees and started brushing the ants out of the way because he didn't want to step on the ants. So Parvat Muni was astonished. This man that used to kill animals half is now unwilling to even step on an ant. Good qualities come to a devotee. Simple living, high thinking. Another is these are the devotees who made the paragraph that accompanies this. They exemplify the 9 processes of devotional service or combination. So here's a nice painting that shows the 9 processes. Let's go through them just for education's sake. At the bottom, there's Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadev Goswami, the first 2. Shravanam, Kirtanam. And then just above them, no, not just above, with the very top, Smaranam, right? Prahlad Maharaj. Padasevanam just below, that's Lakshmi. And Dasyam, Hanuman. Friendship, Arjuna on the left. Bandhanam, there's Akrura offering prayers in the river Jamuna. The Atmanivedana, surrendering everything, it's Bali Maharaj. Who's that out in the upper right? Huh? He's a nice devotee, whoever he is.
Where's Archana?
Yeah, Prithu. Yes, that's right. Archanam. Okay, so exemplifying, they're engaged in and exemplifying the processes of devotional service. And then another is this compassion, exemplifying service to others, to sacrifice oneself so that others can awaken to Krishna consciousness. Certainly Prabhupada did that. I like this photograph. Just a little sharing to make it personal. One of the times that Srila Prabhupada was visiting at the Brooklyn Temple, at the Henry Street Brooklyn Temple, I was the temple commander. And temple commander is kind of a catch-all person. Whatever needs to get done, you make sure it gets done. And if you can't find somebody to get it done, you do it yourself. So one of those services that was required by the temple commander was to guard Prabhupada's quarters at night. And the devotees wanted to do other things, personal service to Prabhupada, but stay up all night, they didn't want to do that. So they can go to the morning program, etc. So I couldn't find anybody to do it, so I did it myself. And I liked it. I got to see Prabhupada. So in the evening, around 8-ish, after the evening class, he would go to the front room. Picture in your mind, this is a double brownstone building, and the size of the temple room was the size of Prabhupada's quarters. It was big. And the back part is where he had this desk, and then over to the side was a place where he would take rest. And then there was the front room that was where he would receive guests, or in the evening he sat and played harmonium for some time, 20 minutes, just him. Nobody, wasn't entertainment, it was just a meditation on the meanings of these wonderful bhajans of Narottam Das Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That's what he did before he took rest. As busy as he was, it was a regular part of his day. And then he went back to his room, got ready to take rest. The light went out. And for about 2 hours, the light was out. And I don't think he had an alarm clock. I didn't hear an alarm clock. Didn't see an alarm clock. He just got up to 2 hours and 15 minutes, roughly, very regulated, and the light went on. Went to take his bath, came out, sat by his desk, tilak, dhoti, and then he had a little lamp just like you see, and he pulled out these multiple books and was going over, running his fingers across the page, preparing his Bhaktivedanta purports, and the dictaphone, and back and forth and back and forth. It was awesome, just watching Srila Prabhupada sacrificing for others in this way. I mean, it was enjoyment. It was fulfilling an order, but the way he did it was like clockwork. It wasn't mechanical, but it was very natural and methodical and filled with the mission. So the mission was awakening the spiritual nature of persons who have forgotten. So that's an Acharya principle, exemplifying it consistently, always. Then another nice photograph. It started much smaller, but it became very substantial, where he would sit and they would have kirtan. You see by his left knee is a little tom-tom drum. He didn't have a mridanga, just beat the drum, and a pair of kartals, and lots of people of all different descriptions came and huddled around to hear the kirtan and then to hear Prabhupada speaking. I'm sure the speaking was quite simple. I wasn't in these audiences, I was in a different position. Exemplifying that spiritual life is practical, whoever we are. So this is this relatability. Although his dress, his age, his culture, quite different than the people shown in this picture anyways, no problem, because he was so relatable and so pure and so true to whatever he said he did, and so he's the Acharya for them. Now what about us? We're not such Acharyas. So how can we be examples? That's a good question, isn't it? We can be some bad examples. That's easy. So there's a little section of personalities that started out not being good examples and became good examples, to teach us that we can also become good examples. We not like right away, but by restoring our Krishna consciousness, we can become good examples. Here's the Dhruva example. He was in the get-back mentality, something that we're advised not to do. His mother advised him, Narada advised him. He still wanted to get back. But because he went to find Vishnu based upon the advice of his mother. And Narada came and intercepted him and examined him and gave him the means to get Vishnu. He moved from revenge and anger to a very elevated position, perfected position. Kinchitiketu, super attached and filled with lamentation. And by the grace of Narada Muni, and this is with him, in this case is Angira Muni, right? Not Parvat Muni, Angira Muni. Because he became a perfected being. He went from this earthly realm to Vidyadhara Loka, and from Vidyadhara Loka he became a pure devotee by the mercy of the process of bhakti. Ajamila had become fallen and very fallen by his attraction for a prostitute, by circumstance, but he became very elevated. He received Krishna's shelter. So that's the hint. We're unqualified, but we can become qualified by the bhakti process, the essence of which is taking shelter of Krishna. And it doesn't just fall on your head. We talked about this yesterday. It's something we cultivate. They cultivate bhakti and cultivate the qualities of bhakta through descending mercy. And our principal shelter for this is our founder Acharya. It doesn't mean others are not in that same category, but especially our founder Acharya. They inspire integrity. They teach by example the essence of education. They lead by example, and that's the essence of governance. Now, this particular passage has something to do with how the Gita Values Project got started. Remember from yesterday how it got started? One devotee was going to become the GBC chairman, and he wanted guidance on how to do that service. So it ended up with the Gita Values Declaration and teachings. So the essence of governance is leading by example. So then you have to know what's what, and then you follow, and becomes leading by example. Exemplifying one's principles is the basis of dignity, respect, and trust. I'm thinking of what Ganga Narayan said at the beginning of his sharing. Why is so that we can become like those persons. And it happens by following their good example. And we're almost done. Here's Bhagavad Gita again. Notice the graphic is in the lower right corner is a key, and the upper right corner is a lock. And keys, when they're used properly, they open locks. And the shape of this one is the shape of a heart. Arjuna exemplified the one who can become a good example. How to inquire, how to hear, how to be open-hearted, how to be dutiful, how to face ever-changing life, how to face inevitable death. You didn't have to do that right away, but it happens. How to move from false ego to real self. You like that one? Okay, that's the last slide. I went quickly because you're all very elevated souls. And you heard the preamble stuff yesterday, so didn't need to do it so thoroughly. And I also, to be honest, I selected a topic that would be quick because tomorrow I have to leave for India. And I'm hoping that the snowstorm that's supposed to come doesn't ground air travel. It's supposed to be a bunch of snow tomorrow. Tonight, but they're saying tonight, tomorrow, 10 inches. But then there's some, maybe not. Maybe it's going to be west. Anyway, I decided to have something that would be short. So, because of tomorrow's long travel day. Any discussion? I mean, I was thinking that pausing here, maybe I could pull up the paragraph, but I'll just send it to you or have it sent to you. The paragraphs that there's a whole team, like 6, 8 people that were working on this project to get what we have, and a paragraph that summarizes nicely. So it's worthy. It's worth going through. And if for those that want, well, here's 2 things. For those that want to introduce new people to Bhagavad Gita, but they may not be ready yet for a Bhagavad Gita discussion group, it's help. It may be a good shoehorn that they can go through the Gita values a little bit and discuss that openly, and have start to get a little interest in having a Bhagavad Gita discussion group. That's how it works in colleges, anyways, and probably for non-colleges. Okay, let's see if there's some discussion.
I'll just repeat. So values have connection with spiritual culture,
Yes,
and values drive behaviors,
yes,
and behaviors can modify spiritual culture.
so modify values. They can modify values.
Behavior can modify values.
You sometimes we encourage people follow the 4 regular principles, and they may struggle. Some people may not. Some people may struggle with it, but it can have an impact on one's values. There's a reason, just like Magari.
Yeah. So behavior can have
Impact on values.
impact on values, but behaviors can also be because of. I mean, we all carry so many what to call it as
Conditioned behaviors.
yeah, we all carry so much baggage, yeah. And sometimes a doctor sees patients when he see all kinds of patients, right? Sometimes a new one shows up, and then you're like, what happened? This is a new problem, new patient, new type of a problem. And similarly in life also, you see, when it comes to behavior.
Dr. Russell knows all
No,
about it.
not. So you're living in the middle of behavioral problems, and and of course, for a doctor in a hospital, it is more like, okay, this is a new disease, and so I have to treat this somehow or other. But in a community,
She's
when
laughing. You've been punched about a bunch lately, probably. You're giddy from being punched a bunch lately.
So some, I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I don't have the ability to understand what's going on, but I can just look at it and definitely see there is a reason behind that behavioral problem. And it's not like that easy, because you don't know what people are carrying.
Yes.
And it's not that easy to, in a straightforward way, okay, this is a problem. You can correct it like that. It's not that simple at all,
Rarely.
rarely. And also there will come a time, the consequence of that will be like it will cross beyond a certain limit, like it will become a bigger problem, and we cannot wait until then also, because you can already see the symptoms now. And so there is a responsibility to correct, but at the same time it is not that easily correctable. So 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 you have to find somebody else who is more capable to uh, uh, take care of that, or because a doctor knows how to treat a patient, but it is not like that simple. And we are talking about spiritual culture, values, behavior, and all that. So we feel like there are so many resources. We have lectures, we have instructions, everything is there. There is nothing lacking here. But maybe the behavioral problem is because it is stemming from something else. Maybe it is beyond the ability of whoever it is, that they are helpless. Uh, okay, I think I talk too much. Sorry. I had to ask you.
You're not asking, you're just whining and complaining.
I guess before you go on a break.
I'll put it in my wheelbarrow and carry it with me.
I heard that.
I'm not unfamiliar with what you're speaking about. I've been around a couple of years, more than you even. And you're senior Vaishnavi. You've been around many years, and I've been around more than that. So I'm familiar with the territory you're speaking about. And the Acharya principle is not your business is to fix everybody's problem. That's not your business. As much as people can see a good example and can receive from that good example, that's your business. And you care, so you try with the tools, experience, wisdom, and other people that have skills. And it's teamwork, because not all, someone comes to a doctor and they say, well, I'm not a foot doctor. I can't help you with your broken toe, but you can go to, an orthopedist and they can help you fix your toe. So it's different skills needed for different maladies, medical and otherwise. And some people are skilled in different ways. And I was thinking a little bit when Mukunda asked the question he asked about sadhana, I was thinking besides sadhana in terms of service too. Here's a little, just it's anecdotal to a degree, but it's responsive to what you're bringing up in another way too. Many of you may have seen Giri Govardhan for the first time because she's kind of a quiet person. She lives in upstate New York, where it's a quiet living situation. But she's kind of a creative individual and has developed a healing modality thing. She just shared it with me, what she does. I don't really understand it, but I'm comfortable because Rambaru Mataji is guiding her, and Rambaru is golden. And it's, so she's doing something that's a little bit out there, tailored to her personality and, and so forth and so on. And it's helping people. And it's helping people not just, they're not misfits, but they're becoming Krishna conscious, not feeling down on themselves or down on others or something like that, or feeling down, period. They're feeling revived in Krishna consciousness, but her approach is very different, but principle based. So different for different resources for different people that have different needs and different backgrounds and relatability to what she's doing, and some people perhaps couldn't relate at all to what she's doing or the way that she's doing what she's doing. But for some, so it helps to be in a position like you're in, that there are individuals that you can just be who you are. It's just the best version, as they say these days, the best version of who you are. And you can't do more than that. You're not going to fix everybody's everything. And if the more you have resources, the people that know some things that you don't know or are skilled in ways that you're not skilled, then they can be helpful. If they can't, then you just stay with the basics. And give what you have. You can't give what you don't have. But the role of someone doing what you're doing is not fix people's problems. That's not a role. You be an acharya-like person, you set an example. You can guide them, lead them to a degree. But some people, like the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So some people just, they're attached to being stuck. And they don't know that they're stuck. They're anyway, so what can you do? And that's something the Prabhupada would say repeatedly, what can be done? But it doesn't mean you stop, but you can only do what you can do. And then if they're choosing otherwise, what can be done? You can be acharya-like for people that want to follow an acharya. And your way of being not you, any one of us, we're all, in some ways, there's some persons who look up to us. There's some persons who look equal to us and some people who are superior to us. But some people we're setting an example. We're supposed to be acharya-like. We're supposed to become, at least, Vaishnava Brahmins. And Vaishnava Brahmins are meant to give guidance to society. Not fix everybody's problems, but give guidance. A Brahminical person does that. And people choose to do what they choose to do. If you have a medical profession, you have a service to do to help people with medical problems, and you may refer them to other doctors. But your business is not, everyone's got to be cured, because it's a never-ending service. Gosh, when I went to this, what do they call it? Is this Shatarupa here?
Urgent care?
Huh?
Urgent care?
Yeah, urgent care, thank you. Oh, God. Nothing urgent at all about that place.
Emergency is worse than urgent care.
Urgent care. Fortunately, it wasn't urgent. But they have their protocol, and they can get sued if they don't follow their protocol and all this, so. But their business is not, they got to fix me. They can diagnose, they can make some recommendations. And then, it turns out the body's healing itself, which is basically what they said. But now, that with that word, okay, the body's I don't need some invasive surgery or anything like that. It's just the way the fracture is, it's okay. It's likely to heal itself. Of course, it may not, but that was likely to heal itself. They gave a 6-week time frame. They'd like to be anyway. So that's what they did. The medical profession, and yours is different. It's a spiritual profession. You do what you can do, and people can follow if they want to, and they can not. And what can be done? Prabhupada's words. What can be done? She got it off her chest. There she goes. You must have had a difficult week or something. You must have had a difficult week. Okay, go ahead.
Hare, Hare Krishna Maharaj. In one of your classes the last weekend, you talked about some people who take advantage of you just because you're humble and you have a good nature.
I didn't say that. I said people say that.
Okay. So, being in Krishna consciousness, how do we deal with such people without creating a serious offense?
You smile. Here's a Bhakti Siddhanta saying. There's a nice devotee that is counsels devotees, and one of her Krishna Lila, one of her favorite phrases is, "No one can hurt you except if you hurt yourself." Something like that. You smile. Be humble, be meek, be sincere. People may try to take advantage of you, and you smile because you're protected. You have shelter. You're safe. Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I'm reflecting on the definition of faith that you read from the Monday email.
Yeah.
Trust based on experience.
Yes.
But in spiritual life, at least in the early stages, it seems the Adav Shraddha. So the trust of future reward in some sense, spiritual material. That's not based on experience. I'm just trying to understand.
I disagree. It may be incremental, not like the full show at once, but to follow the incremental, there's some experience. And I tried to give that example. You act on knowledge, and it strengthens faith. I mean, that was my experience. Just take Ayurvedic doctor. I have faith in, he's now deceased, but Dr. Pankaj Naran, but he was good. And he made it anyway. He was good. And I was very happy to follow because I got experience. It wasn't like, I'm a young man again, but that there were some medical problems that were difficult. And there was a very quick improvement. The bell didn't ring. It wasn't like 100%, but a very clear improvement. So acting in knowledge, you get some result. You have some experience. Which strengthens faith. So then you go further. And like the rising of the sun example. There's experience.
Can that experience be kind of subconscious? Because example is
Self or sub?
Subconscious. That is, we don't realize. In fact, chanting is a good example. Many devotees, including myself, we struggle, but we do it. It's not like it's giving any obvious pleasure, but still we do it. So there must be something there which is not.
There is something there, and you can just look back. It's very simple. Look back to where you were some time ago before you started chanting. And you had, I'm sure, just knowing you have good sanskaras, you have good character. You're truthful and you're diligent and you're caring and you're, a lot of nice, good qualities. And then there's further cleansing and uplifting of those qualities themselves and the direction for which those qualities are aimed. And you look for where you've been and where you are, and you see that's an experience. It's different. It may be incremental different, but it's different. And how much you think about the quality and consistency and attentiveness of chanting, that kind of consciousness wasn't there before for any of us. So that's an experience. And where is it? What is the source of where that experience comes from? The practice, Shravanam Kirtanam. That's a practical experience. Sadhu Sangha, practical experience. Kirtan, practical experience. Etc. And over a period of time, something that I feel has had dramatic effect in my life is Srimad Bhagavatam. By reading Srimad Bhagavatam consistently, I don't know what that is. It's heart you carry it inside. And the world outside is the same, but you experience the world outside differently. That's an experience. Incremental.
Guru Maharaj, along the lines of the quotes that you were sharing, one quote that I've heard from Vrajavihari Prabhu and some of the trainings I've taken from him is, your actions are so loud that I can't hear your words.
Yeah. There's a little video, an Acharya video, and it's a nice one, so I'm going to play it. And hopefully the sound works. What?
นี่คือเรื่องราวระหว่างฉันกับลูกและสับปะรดฉันไม่ได้เรียนหนังสือไม่รู้ว่าต้องพูดต้องสอนแบบไหน
Oh, Govinda.
นี่คือเรื่องราวระหว่างฉันกับลูกและสับปะรดฉันไม่ได้เรียนหนังสือไม่รู้ว่าต้องพูดต้องสอนแบบไหนฉันรู้แค่ว่าต้องทำให้ดูให้เขาเห็นเป็นตัวอย่าง
เป็นไงล่ะอร่อยกว่าไอติมอีกใช่ไหมจ้าแม่แม่ทำขายนะแม่เนาะไอติมสับปะรดนะคะไอติมสับปะรดนะคะไอติมสับปะรดนะคะไอติมสับปะรดนะคะแม่ทำไมไม่มีใครซื้อเลยอ่ะงั้นลองไปดูที่ตลาดว่าเขาขายกันยังไง
พี่จอมครับพี่อร่อยครับพี่จอมครับจ้า
พี่ก็มาต้อง
Thank you.
พอเห็นเขาได้สังเกตได้ลองทำเอง วันนี้ฉันสบายใจแล้ว ที่เห็นเขาทำได้แบบนี้ และมั่นใจว่าวันข้างหน้าถ้าไม่มีฉันเขาจะยืนได้ด้วยตัวเขาเอง
อัชราพงศ์สวัสดิ์ได้รับทุนจากโครงการสารรักจนจบปริญญาตรีปี 2556 แรงบันดาลใจจากครอบครัวสร้างการเรียนรู้ที่ไม่รู้จบ สารรักจาก AIS
Learning from experience, she eventually became a college graduate just from that method of learning from her mother, although her mother didn't have a degree. So here's, I think, the last slide, yeah. Any value or quality remains forever if we learn it from the deepest places of our hearts, and that's the Gita values plus mantra meditation equals spiritual awakening. Again, this is for college kid audience or a new people audience. So you know all these things. Some further questions. I wanted to play that little video. It's a nice little video.
Bharaj, I was thinking about the Acharya definition. And when I think about Acharya, I don't necessarily think of someone aspiring to be an Acharya rather than someone genuinely doing what they, mood of service, like Srila Prabhupada, genuinely trying to serve his spiritual master. There's this aspect of genuineness or purity, you could call it. And that in itself automatically attracts people.
Yes.
So that's one aspect. And then there's certain aspects where we explicitly want to be a role model so that we can influence certain people. And that could be in a position as a parent, for example. We would like our children to take up to, inspire them in a particular way in which I may not necessarily be genuinely there, but I take it up to serve as an inspiration. So can you maybe comment on those two aspects of Acharya?
Well, there's being and there's becoming. And ideal is before you're becoming a parent or becoming a teacher, or before becoming a person, that there are others in a formal or official way, you're the example-setting person in their life, or the instructing person in their life by example or precept. Best to have those qualities. At the same time, much of what we do, say as preachers, because Prabhupada encouraged us to go forward and propagate, just like the first two purposes of ISKCON, but we're not so qualified. But by propagating and being sincere about what that's all about, it helps to bring the qualification to one who may not be fully qualified. And that's the second model. So it's being or becoming, and taking the responsibility of being a parent or a teacher or a temple president, or there's demands. If you're conscientious and serious, and so you have to become more qualified, more pure, more example setting in principle and example. So they go in hand in hand. That my understanding, there's an ever growing dynamic in spiritual life. It's never, the bell rings and you're there. There's always growing and growing and growing, always. Never stagnant. It's always dynamic. So that's the becoming. You know, it's like this example of being a parent. Is there a limit? And as you become more qualified, then you start to think how my children could be better realized persons or happy persons or whatever, matured persons, if I became more of a good example. So it's ever increasing, ever increasing. As I'm sitting here and thinking about your question, little experience. When we went to Udupi, one of the places we went to, because it wasn't far away, was Sringeri Math. And I met a devotee couple that I had known for years from Seattle. But they moved from Seattle, they went to India. And one of the things that they did in India, because they have 2 boys, they enrolled their 2 boys in the Sanskrit school in Udupi. And they weren't satisfied. I didn't ask what was lacking. They weren't fully satisfied. And they ended up enrolling their boys in a Sanskrit school in Sringeri Math because the Sanskrit school was better. And just as they were speaking, the boys were right there. And they were visibly very contented, very calm, very, So I asked, what do you do to ensure they don't get influenced by the impersonalism of the place? Because how can you avoid it? And they said because they looked at husband and wife looked at each other, because we have very strong Krishna conscious foundation in the home, and our kids understand the difference. It's not the same, but it's something similar to Jiva Goswami being sent by Lord Nityananda to Benares. And he studied under Madhusudana Saraswati. Madhusudana Vachaspati, yes. So he learned everything about before he had to write about it. Anyway, when there's a wholesomeness inside, then you can protect your dependents and give them serenity and peace and tranquility, and who knows what they're going to be when they grow up. But I'm sure it's going to be something dynamic, not the run-of-the-mill kids growing up. But it's the Krishna consciousness of the parents. So they had to prepare themselves to go to do what they're doing. It's just a detail, but it's an example to illustrate. They had to qualify themselves to do what they're doing. They didn't start there, but it's dynamic. There's a few other people that had their hands up. Let's see who would like to say something. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. We have many prayers of Queen Kunti, Bhishma Dev, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj. So I was wondering what makes Akrura's prayer special, that it makes it on the list of the 9 processes of devotional service. What
is it about a particular prayer that makes it hit on the top 10 list?
Akrura's prayers specifically, because we have so many nice prayers by many devotees.
Oh, why is Akrura's name connected?
Yes.
Why not? There's a whole long section, because his prayers are so beautiful. And our acharyas have, there's many, so there are many, many, many prayers. Why he has the example of achieving perfection through prayer. That's your question. Well, it could be many. But there's someone who made such a list, our acharyas who have made such a list. They're very beautiful prayers. Not that there aren't other very beautiful prayers. You want to add something?
Mark's volume is pretty low. We can't hear so well at the back.
Oh, that's when he's hand signals. Just turn the speaker around. Just face it backwards. The speaker part faced that way. She's smart. Okay. I don't have any specific, other than their beautiful prayers, and by his offering the prayers as he was approaching Vrindavan. It wasn't standing in water. He also offered prayers at that time, but that's just a picture. It's the entering Vrindavan, anticipating meeting Krishna, this and that, and the anticipation, and then he saw Krishna's footprints, and he fell off his chariot, rolled in the ground in the dust, and so just through his prayers he achieved that state of absorption and thought of Krishna. So not that others can't have something comparable, but that's what happened with him.
Guru Maharaj, just wanted to share some appreciation as you were describing about your service to Srila Prabhupada, guarding his quarters during the night time. It's as if we are seeing right in front of us as I was closing my eyes. With such
the sound is too muffled. Turn it this way for my ears and that way for them.
I was just saying, the way you're describing that whole service, Guru Maharaj, it's as if we are seeing it right in front of us. Like you're there. Such attention to details. I was just appreciating it. So heartwarming. And I also want to ask, did you write it down, that incident? Or it's just in the heart?
Did I? No. I've said it many times. Many times. Stoka Krishna's heard it several times. Someone else? Okay. You turn the volume up and the result is there's lots of feedback. Like this, so it's somewhere in between maybe. Go ahead.
One of the slides, it said exemplifying one's principles, something, then there was dignity, trust, and respect. Could you, exemplifying one's principles is the basis of dignity, respect, and trust.
You like that?
I didn't understand it.
You didn't understand it. Should we go back to the slide so we get it precise? Let me do that. Not too difficult. There it is. Exemplifying one's principles is the basis. So it's saying the Acharya principle, which is exemplifying one's principles or one's values. The Acharya principle is the basis of other things. Dignity, how one carries oneself, respect towards others, because it follows those other characteristics of an Acharya. You offer respect to others because you see that there's spiritual identity, although there's differences. Pandita Samadarshana, that one. respect, by seeing the soul within, not just the covering and the behavior. And trust. It garners, you behave in a Acharya-like way, you behave in a trustworthy way, it garners trust towards the Acharya person, and the Acharya person then garners trust in seeing beyond the covering, the misgivings that somebody has, the shortcomings that someone has, and elevating that someone. It helps others become more Acharya-like or trustworthy by being Acharya-like. It's the basis. So it's foundational. That's the idea. It's a little. This is a little bit like what I was saying about purity. Upon purity, so many other things rest, and without purity, the other things aren't. There's no substance to rest upon. So this is saying something similar about being Acharya-like. You are, and you live the principles that exemplary character should consist of, and you're consistent about it. And when that foundation is there, these other things come. You're still puzzled?
So those principles, one's principles is actually the principles that you listed out before, which is seeing others as spirit souls and simple living, high thinking. That's what is being referred here?
No. Include those. But my understanding of what this is saying is the Gita value, the model, the culture model. There's behaviors, and then there's values, and when you're consistently living according to your values and behaviors according to the values and the choices you make, and it's resting upon a spiritual conception, unchanging reality, that iceberg of culture, one of the dimensions of that is that you're Acharya-like. You know what the teachings are, you know what the exemplary persons who live by those teachings, and you become like that yourself. You become Acharya-like. It's not necessarily referring to those list of.
That also said principle number 1.
Yes, it did say.
Okay.
So logically, this statement would follow those things because it comes after those. That's not how I read it. I read it from that, the starting point. Iceberg of culture. And the role of values within that spiritual culture. And one who lives by those values consistently, because it's not just outside, it's inside, that's the Acharya. Using that model.
One other thought, I was listening to this. So one is accepting these spiritual principles, but also letting go of those other values that we might grow up with. And I had a couple of experiences where one I can talk about is that, one of the value for me is relationships are important, and how I have always taken the initiative to cultivate relationships, show care and things like that. But what happened was over the years, I noticed that I was getting burnt out. And so when I looked at it, a friend of mine, showed me a mirror, and it helped in one way. And I realized that it was some value that I grew up with, and not necessarily it was. I'm not able to put a pin on what changed, but something changed where I'm at more peace right now. My relationships have improved, and expectations have gone down and things like that. So there's some change, but I don't know what change. And so today I'm thinking it must be letting go of those material values that I've grown up valuing.
Maybe edit it, and it may be that the elevation or transformation of the value itself to the spiritual platform. Meaning, you have come more to a spiritual platform. Maybe that's it. I'm just taking a guess that this isn't maybe a good public discussion, but my sense of your nature is you've come from a cultured background. That's my sense of you. You come from a cultured background with refined qualities, refined character, refined speech, etc. You have a good foundation in higher character, higher qualities. However, those are in the modes of nature, not necessarily as spiritual as they could be, should be, would be. This is me holding up a mirror. This is what I see. And so, hearing what you just said, it's getting stressed out or burned out, is having expectations that this is going to produce that. In a relationship or in your feelings about the relationship, and et cetera, so that by becoming more attached to Krishna specifically, or the Supreme Person specifically, then they're letting go of some of that. Not necessarily the value changes, but the center changes or becomes more clear. Not that it was absent before, but it's just more clear, more focused, more sharp. And there's a lot of reinforcement towards that end through the Sangha of Vaishnavas, and probably having children helps you be really more focused on what's really important, is on the spiritual side and not just the temporary side of that relationship, parents to children, and then in turn to others. So it's just spiritualizing your life, which it's not letting go, but it's spiritualizing. That's my point. That's my sense. It's 10 after 8. We'll take one more Sri Radhika question, and we're going to end.
Thoughts you wanted to share. One is, tying in what we've been hearing in the morning and evening classes. So, value under.
Let's try again.
So tying in what we've been hearing in the morning and evening discussions during your visit, even if there is a disconnect between...
Can you hear back there? Not at all.
Even if there is a disconnect...
Oh, that's really good.
Between one's behavior and one's values, like Lord Brahma, there was a disconnect between the behavior that he was performing,
yes,
and the value of compassion.
Yes.
Or Arjuna being asked to fight, however, compassion on the material platform. Bhishma Dev, fighting against his own Supreme Lord. Even if there is a disconnect, it seems that the lesson we learn is that the principle or the value of surrender to Krishna's instruction, obedience to his instruction, reigns supreme over any other value we may hold.
You're hitting on this other one. Obedience is the first law of discipline.
And I was thinking about this statement, exemplifying one's principles. So they were principles that Lord Brahma was,
Or
was obedient. He was doing what Krishna wanted.
Yes.
That was his obedience.
Yes.
Even it was something that didn't match what he liked.
Yes.
A value. That's a good value.
Yeah.
Give knowledge. Instead he's giving ignorance. What?
And a question, Guru Maharaj. Mrigari took a